b'abatutsi bari bahahungiye baririmba nahise ninjira.
I entered the church knowing that nobody would have the courage to attack a holy place.
Niyo wapfuguye ahangaha byanga bikunda waburu.
Shortly after we had entered, my eldest child, who was with my mother-in-law, they stabbed him with a sharp stick below his ear. My mother-in-law told me that my son had died. I told her, "Don't cry. I think we are in trouble. I don't know if we ourselves are going to survive." She laid the body down. They also threw bricks at us through the holes. I put my baby down and I lay down beside the altar. They entered and they were attacking people, chopping people. The miracle that happened to me, I asked God to help me cross the Red Sea. Then they killed a baby and threw it on me. Now they couldn't tell if I was alive or not because of the dead bodies. Angelique Mukabikizi is a survivor of the genocide that took place in Rwanda in 1994. In a barbaric 100 days of mass killings, an estimated 1 million Tutsi men, women and children were slaughtered at the hands of government soldiers and Interhamwe militia. 12 years on, survivors are barely coping with the physical and mental scars. Many women were subjected to extreme sexual violence, raped by militia, or mutilated so they could never bear Tutsi children. And in what is perhaps the genocide's cruelest legacy, many female survivors are now infected with HIV. The genocide continues to leave orphans. Many of these children, themselves HIV positive, are cared for now by grandparents or neighbours. Travelling through Rwanda today, it's difficult to comprehend that these are not chronicles from the country's dark age. The atrocities took place just over a decade ago. During the genocide, the international community abandoned us Rwandans. They saw everything as it was happening. They saw it on their televisions, they had it on their radios, but they still took it as some killings between savages. This hurts us a lot. If you look at the way the international community reacted to the tsunami in Indonesia or elsewhere, that's different from what they did here in Rwanda. For most Rwandans, there will be no peace without justice. And justice means capturing and punishing the perpetrators of the genocide. Many of the suspected architects of the killings fled Rwanda in late 1994. As a judicial response, the UN established the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, or ICTR, in neighbouring Tanzania, so that suspects apprehended could be brought to justice on an international stage. Its creation was to signal that the world would not tolerate crimes of genocide.
A crime of this magnitude has to be prosecuted internationally because the crime itself destroyed the whole basis of the society. I mean, atrocities have been committed time and again throughout history. The only difference between this particular conflict and innumerable conflicts that have preceded it is that we have the resources now to create a tribunal to hold these leaders to account.
Don Webster has been working as a prosecutor at the ICTR for over 8 years. He is currently responsible for the indictment of 3 of the leaders of the MRND political party who controlled Rwanda until 1991.
I chose to work on this case because I thought that this was the kernel that linked all of the other cases. These are the political party strategists that refused to share power and then turned the conflict, which was, made an ethnic conflict out of something that was essentially a political conflict.
The tribunal has marked many watersheds. This is the first tribunal to have found a person guilty of genocide, and the first to convict a former head of state of the crime of genocide. But international tribunals and international justice have their detractors. This is a slow and expensive process, and there are political implications for individual states. In March of this year, ex-Liberian President Charles Taylor was arrested in Nigeria and transferred to the Special Court for Sierra Leone. He was indicted for his role in arming and funding the RUF in a brutal conflict in which tens of thousands died. Charles Taylor was personally charged with some of the worst crimes against humanity.
These rebels consisted of Sierra Leoneans and Liberians were assisted by Libyan special forces. Among their goals was the diamond fields of eastern Sierra Leone. Their motive, power, riches, and control. Blood diamonds are the common thread that bound together this criminal enterprise.
Capturing and placing Charles Taylor on trial is a significant step in the fight against impunity. It sends a signal that the rule of law applies to everyone, even high-profile political figures. But human rights abuses are not exclusive to Africa in the 21st century.
The chamber will now begin the trial of this man for the wrongs he is said to have done to the people of his own country and to his neighbors. Today, as never before, we see international justice in action.
The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia sits in The Hague, the Netherlands. Here, individual war crime suspects, rather than entire communities, are held responsible for their actions. Slobadan Milosevic died while his case was in progress, but the tribunal has indicted 160 others for crimes against humanity across the former Yugoslavia. Bringing perpetrators of war crimes to justice, no matter how long it takes, is just one example of the European Union's work in human rights. The EU funds all of the ad hoc international criminal courts, Rwanda, Yugoslavia, and the upcoming tribunal in Cambodia, set to prosecute crimes against humanity, which took place under the Khmer Rouge regime 30 years ago. For the EU, political commitment from the world's leaders is vital to expedite international justice. In parallel with the work in Rwanda, the EU supports politically and financially the International Criminal Tribunal in Arusha. It's important that the international community see that it is all of our responsibility to judge crimes against humanity, including genocide. The UN Tribunal for Rwanda is for the world, not just as a compensation for mistakes of the past. Punishing political leaders and foot soldiers for crimes against humanity on an international stage is a line in the sand for civilized societies. The ICTR complements the work of Rwanda's national judiciary and the community Gacaca court system. In villages with local leaders elected as judges, victims and witnesses are involved in interactive court proceedings against alleged criminals. In this broken society, it is hoped that the procedure will promote healing by making the punishment of thousands of perpetrators faster. I was a parent. I had children that I used to carry, and now I just carry my hands. This should be a lesson for the entire world. No parent should produce children for the spear again. The peace that I wish for Rwandans should also be there for everyone else in the world.
Anyone on the political scene now that has seen what the ICTY has done, has seen what the ICTR has done, has seen the arrest of Charles Taylor for the special court in Sierra Leone, knows that one day they will be held to account for what they do. So everyone has to be aware that the era of impunity has come to an end.